Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Tilkal ayyamu nadawilaha bainan nas. Allah Ta'ala ne farmaya Quran Sharif mein ke Allah Ta'ala gives changing the control and the power of over the world from time to time. It circulates. Sometimes one nation is powerful and sometimes another one. So actually, what is the cause of this change? This is very deep, and obviously we cannot actually discuss all of the causes. But you must realize that when Islam came to the world, it was a stranger, and Allah Ta'ala revealed it to the Arabs, who were ignorant people, illiterate people. They were living in semi-savage conditions. Then Allah Ta'ala provided them with knowledge. It's very important to understand. It was not a factory, it was not a chemical, it was not a bomb, it was knowledge. Allah Ta'ala says in the very beginning, Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam, that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of all things, and He gave to man knowledge that we did not have. With this knowledge, Muslims became leaders of the world for 1,000 years. Today, our condition is bad precisely because we have lost the knowledge of the teachings of Islam. As Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Islam came as a stranger and it will become a stranger. Today, much to my surprise, even the simplest teachings of Islam are not known to the vast majority of Muslims. They have questions about things which are most fundamental, fundamental issues which have been explained Islamic teachings, but people have lost this knowledge mainly because it is a deep and sophisticated knowledge. It requires hard work for a long period of time. In order to achieve your metric, you have to do 10 years of study, and that gives you only some very basic training. So Islam is more complicated than metric, and it has a lot of rules and regulations and laws which most of us have not studied. The ulama study it, but also there the situation is that sometimes there is knowledge of the type that you memorize the words and you reproduce them on exams, but you don't have the understanding of the meaning. So the form is preserved, but the meaning is lost. So actually also in hadith it says that that nothing will remain of Islam except for its name, and nothing will remain of the Quran except for the writing of it. So the writing is there, the words are there, but the meaning has been lost. So Allah Ta'ala has said that Allah waliyul ladhina amanu yakhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur wal ladhina kafaru awliya'uhum at-taghut yakhrijunahum min an-nur ila adh-dhulumati ulaika ashabun nar hum fiha khalidun. Allah Ta'ala in this verse has promised that those people who have iman, they will be shown the light of guidance, and those people who are disbelievers, they will be led from light to darkness. They will have knowledge and they will be actually become ignorant. I used to be very surprised at this verse. I was very astonished. What is Allah Ta'ala saying here? Because to my understanding, all of the knowledge was in the West and we didn't have any. So they have been making increases in knowledge. But Allah Ta'ala says no, knowledge will decrease. So it was only after a long effort and struggle that I came to understand that what we are being told is knowledge And that is neoclassical economics I'm referring to here, although there are many other kinds of knowledge that are also part of it, but today we will concentrate on that. This is not knowledge, this is just ignorance. So, what is being taught is just plain wrong, and so there is a idea that in order to make progress we have to work very hard. There's current modern economics, according to some people, has been taken about 2 centuries to develop. So now we have to work to acquire 2 centuries worth of knowledge, and then we will be able to make further progress. So now we are backwards by 2 centuries of knowledge. So with this view, which is pretty hopeless, we are very far behind, and we need to work very hard to catch up, and it seems like a hopeless proposition. But actually, as I will try to tell you today, this neoclassical economics is a handicap. It's a barrier to understanding the real world. So if you just throw it away and you have nothing, then people who have nothing are better placed to understand the world than people who have been trained in neoclassical economics. So once we understand that if you start at zero, you start without a handicap, and so we can make further progress. And so the field is open, and बढ़कर उठा ले हाथ में मीना उसी की है. Whoever has the courage and the strength and the ambition to grasp the reward, he can do so. There is no handicap that prevents us from winning the race for knowledge, except for our own lack of self-confidence and insufficient effort and wrong types of ambitions. So this is the overall message. Now I'd like to specify in detail what is going on. So what I want to say is that the current economic methodology that is being taught all over the world, in Harvard, in LUMS, in PIDE, in Qaeda-Azam, in Australia, in Europe, is fundamentally flawed. It's basically completely wrong. This is exactly what I'm saying, that the unbelievers were led from a position where they had some knowledge to a position where they became ignorant of that knowledge. And how did it happen? Well, there are actually many different strands to the story, many different ways in which this happened. It's a very complex story. One of the important roots of this was something which is called Methodenstreit. It's a German word. There was a battle of methodologies. There were 2 sides. One of the sides said that economic knowledge should be historical, should be sensitive to context, should have something to do with the culture. Any economics of Germany will depend on things in Germany, the culture of Germany, the special situation of Germany, the products of Germany, and economics of England will be different. The other group said that no, it should be like a science. There should be some universal invariant laws of economics which work everywhere. Now, actually the truth is that the historical school was right. I mean, the economics of Pakistan is not the same as the economics of England, it's not the same as Germany, and the economics of the 19th century is not the same as the economics of the 20th century. But what the methodology that economists believe in says that all the theory should be the same for all places. Now this is a very complex issue, not so easily decided. The historical school made some mistakes in their arguments. And also some of the key people who were very bright died, so they were unable to defend their position. So the universal invariant laws, the scientific method, won the battle, even though it was the wrong thing. So that was one reason why the methodology of current, you see, if you read today your international trade theory, It discusses theory, and you can go through an advanced graduate course in international trade. And if you construct a model, the model that you construct for trading between Pakistan and India will be exactly the same as the model that you construct for trading between Pakistan and Nigeria, and also for Greece and Egypt, and also for Brazil and Argentina. And actually the truth is that this is just not true. The same model doesn't work. You have to take into consideration particular issues of Pakistan. What does Pakistan grow? What does India, or how does India's economic look like if you want to study trade? But you can get a PhD without knowing any of these things, and you can be, because the universal law, the Methodist right, says that economics is about universal laws. It's not about special details. It's not about history. So that was a battle, but that means that initially, in the early 20th century, economists used to look at history and context, and slowly this was abandoned, and so ignorance spread. Then there was this very influential sociologist, Max Weber. He said that the reality of is so complex that we cannot understand it. The human beings, there are so many of them, and they act with many different motivations. And so he gave up the game. He said that instead of trying to understand reality, it's too difficult, let's try to make a model which just oversimplifies. We understand that the model is too simple, it doesn't really capture reality, but we will have to satisfy ourselves with not a true explanation, not a genuine explanation, but something which looks like an explanation. So this is why, even though we all know that human beings are not 100% selfish all the time, let us just make that assumption. It just simplifies our model. So this was a mistake, as it turns out. At that time it was not clear that this is a mistake, but that was a second mistake. Third mistake. It happened in Europe that there was a great transformation. And this has been discussed in a book by Polanyi, very important book. There is a traditional society in which you have community, you have harmony, you have cooperation. You have people who are working together for a common goal. And you have a market society where there are no friends. Everything is on the market. Even my brother, who was going to college in USA, he had a friend. He asked him about whether his parents were helping him in providing. He used to work a lot of jobs to earn money to pay for his college. So he said, asked him, do your parents help? So he laughed. He said that my parents charge me for my room and board. So he has to pay, and he said that when I became 18, my parents said, well, now you are an adult, we no longer have, according to US law, legal responsibility for you. So we would be very happy for if you want to stay with us. The room that you are living in will be $100, and every day we will provide you with food, and the cost will be so much. And if you want to move out, that's also fine with us. So this is the situation, that in a market society, everything is for sale. So now there is a conflict, a very strong conflict between market values and human values, as people have come to realize. Things are done for the sake of for the sake of society, like if your mother cooks something for you and you say, oh mother, you have done something very nice for me, how much can I pay you? So this would be a very, 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 very bad things to say. This is just to show how strongly there is a conflict between the market and the traditional society. Market society requires greed and pursuit of profits and lack of compassion You cannot afford, because market society creates the poor. And if the poor are needed in a market society, because you need to hire people to do your jobs for you. And okay, let's see. So, this is a theme which I have developed elsewhere in one of my articles, so I won't pursue it because it's not so relevant to our discussion. But basically, there are certain types of behavior which are adapted to the marketplace and certain types which are adapted to normal human society. And for some reasons, both of these are now coexisting within every human being. So now, your economic theory is teaching you, all of economic theory is based on the idea that every human being is motivated by just one motive. And what is that? It's greed, to maximize the money. Everything, the consumer is driven by that, the firm is driven by that. All of the economic theory that you currently have from Romer, Samuelson, everything that exists is all based on the idea that humans like to have money, and this is the only motivation that is. Is this true? Well, it turns out that as the market society grows stronger, this motivation also grows stronger. So, this is what the great transformation of Polanyi says, that initially the market society was very weak and traditional society was very, very strong, but market society slowly became stronger and stronger, and this was not what you might call an evolutionary process. He said this was a war. When market society grows, then the traditional society shrinks. And so one of the things the human society teaches is that you should have a sense of brotherhood. You should cooperate with each other. You should have compassion for the poor. But actually the market society teaches the opposite of these things. He said that, okay, let poverty exist because we need a pool of labor. We need to, instead of no brotherhood, we should compete with each other because that leads to efficient outcomes. So if you have cutthroat competition, if you're not looking, I cut your throat, and if I'm not looking, you cut my throat, then this will lead to efficiency. So these are the theories that you have been taught. This is ignorance instead of knowledge. Now, we have to understand that this battle is going on currently in Pakistan and all over the world. When just maybe 20-30 years ago, it would have been considered very bad if somebody said that I'm going to learn medicine because I want to make profit out of the pain and the misery and the sickness of the poor. But today people can say that without embarrassment. In the school I saw recently, they used to have this poster. On one pillar it says enter to learn, and the other pillar said that leave to serve. But now they have changed that and it says enter to learn and leave to earn. So instead of the idea that we should serve humanity, we should just earn money. So this is a new thing that is coming up and is gradually growing stronger in the minds of our youth, and that the purpose of life is to make money. This is the effect of the market society. This is not a traditional society. Now, what does human behavior, this is what is human behavior? According to economic theory, human behavior is based on the pursuit of money. Everybody maximizes their own utility functions, and that we use as the fundamental principle to calculate everything. Actually, the truth is that the human behavior is also greedy. There are situations where people try to maximize money, to maximize profits. These are the market situations. And then there are social situations where people don't do this. So what behavioral economics shows is that there is something which is, so there is a dual personality within everybody. Sometimes people are noble and kind and compassionate and generous, and in some situations they are very ruthless and cruel and greedy and acquisitive and pursue wealth. So the experiments, this is sort of more or less, most recent experiments are showing that everything depends. If you want to study behavior, everything depends on framing. What does framing mean? It means how you describe the situation. The same situation, if you describe it as a market situation, people behave differently. If you describe it as a social situation, people behave differently. So, from the economic point of view, the situation is exactly the same. So, I will make this clear. For example, in blood donations, economists thought, Nobel Prize winners said, that look, suppose I start paying you for your blood donation. Then more people will donate, because obviously if you... But actually, when this happened then, when the experiments were done, people donated less blood. Because nobody wants to sell their blood. If you are giving your blood for a noble cause, a lot of people are ready to do that. But if you want to say, okay, this is blood for sale, this is not, because one is a market norm and the other is a social norm. So, very similarly, the economists have spent a lot of time on designing labor contracts. So, you are going to come in for work. If you work extra hard, I will give you a bonus. I will also be watching you to see if you are shirking. If you are away from the desk, I will give you a penalty. So this is the standard monetary incentives. These don't work very well. Instead, if you say that, look, I trust you, I need about twice as much work as today, and I'm going to pay you extra, and here's your money, and I trust you to do your work, and I'm not going to look. Then people do double the work because they respond to the trust, because this is now a social situation, not a market. You're not really... So this is very standard. So how you frame the situation, whether it's okay, I'm going to buy your effort, or whether put in the effort for me because we are part of a team, and these two are different, and they create different types of behavior. So, according to economic theory, human beings are cold, calculating and callous. What does cold mean? Cold means that they are not affected by emotions. They just calculate what is the best thing to do without having any emotion, without having any... And then they are calculating, that is, they maximize if there are two decisions, one which leads to more, and the other leads to less, then they make all the calculations and they choose the one which will give them the maximum advantage. And then they are callous. Callous means no heart. They don't feel about if the other person is hurt, it doesn't matter. That's what your utility function is. It just looks at your own utility. It doesn't look at what is happening to the others. The truth is that this is not so. Human beings are not like this. Even in the marketplace, human beings are not like this. When you look at why people buy things, it's very often done on impulse. Ads appeal to different types of emotions. So if you want to understand even market behavior, it's not enough to look at greed. So now we are going to demonstrate this by an experiment which I am going to conduct now. So we are going to put economic theory on one side and human experience on the other side, and we are going to describe this game. This is called the ultimatum game. In the ultimatum game is played like this. Let's see, I need two teams. Right, just to make it more real, we are going to conduct this experiment. Alright, so I will choose these 3 people versus these 3 people. You are going to be the proposers. Proposers have the option कि यहाँ पे 1000 रुपए पड़े हैं 100 के नोटों में. अब आपका काम है कि you pick a share of this. You can say I will take 500. You can take all of it. It's up to you. You can take 400. You can take 700. Whatever you like. This team, these 3 people, are going to decide whether they accept. So what you have to do is you offer them. You can offer them 100 rupees from this spot, or 200 or 300, however much you want to offer. They get to decide whether to accept or reject. If they accept, then it will go as proposed. If they reject, then nobody gets anything, the money goes back. So now, you have to decide, confer among yourselves and decide how much money do you want to give these 2 people. You have to agree. Zero दे देंगे, वो तो रिजेक्ट कर देंगे. Zero कर देंगे. 200. ठीक है, ये आपको 200 देना है. आपका क्या ख्याल है? लेंगे? Now, this is a very common outcome in the ultimatum game, which is exactly opposite of what the economic theory predicts. Actually, economic theory has a exact calculation. Just like you see when you do your mathematics, you can calculate. So, economic theory tells exactly what is going to happen in this game. It's not fuzzy. It says what will happen. It says that these people will offer exactly 100 rupees, not 200. Why? Because they want to maximize. So 900 is more than 800, and they assume that the other side is also sitting as economists, and the other side knows that 100 rupees is better than 0. So they will accept. So this is the unique dominant strategy. Ji.
Sir, यहाँ पे एक factor punishment का भी आ जाता है. Like
we are going to discuss that, inshallah. This is what economic theory says, but actual behavior is completely different. Completely different. All across the world, if the offer is less than 30%, most people reject, which is contrary to economic theory. Economic theory says that everyone maximizes utility, you prefer more to less, but these people just showed that they preferred less to more. So the behavior that we see is completely in conflict with economic theory. Now, why is that? Well, actually we are going to analyze that, but a little bit later. I saved all my money. But why did I offer it in the first place? I mean, there was no need. Anyway, that's actually we are going to analyze motives, but maybe a little bit later. So basically, what I am trying to explain here is the reason for behavior in economics, and the reason is that economic theory does not predict behavior correctly. So now behavioral economics started by saying, let us see, does economic theory provide us with a good guide to human behavior? They found that it doesn't. There were many experiments. Finally, there was a period of time when people were just analyzing, does economic theory offer us a good guide? Then they decided this is simply not true, economic theory doesn't work. then the question is, what does work? So how can we explain behavior? So that's the second stage, as to analyze. Now, how can we explain behavior since economic theory doesn't work? Now, behavioral economics is deviation in economic theory, because once you say that there are other motives like revenge or fairness or justice, and these are definitely human motivation, then you have stepped outside. There's nothing about this is written in Samuelson or in any other textbook of economics, and so it is kind of a revolutionary idea. And so that is one place where we can start, but again, there is no need to fear that we are behind in behavioral economics. At least in behavioral economics they have made advances, because behavioral economics itself is a threatened minority group. They are trying very hard to conform to economists. They are trying hard not to be rejected. So when they see a deviant behavior, they see something which doesn't work, then they try to make the smallest possible change to economic theory which will adjust that behavior without actually thinking about what the real meaning and significance is. So it's just one small step towards the truth, but we can go much further if we if we want to. So this is a good short-term strategy for people living in the US, where they have to get along with mainstream economists. Here we don't have any problem. What is happening there is that there is inertia. All of the power is in the hands of the mainstream. So anybody who wants to make a dissent has to be very careful. He has to make only a small amount of dissent, which will be acceptable. He can't say something revolutionary. So now what I want to do is to come to this. This is a game that I want to analyze, and I want to show how the economic theory is contradicted by reality, and why also the emotional aspects which were being discussed. So this game is in the tree form. You will be learning more about this, but this is a very simple tree. Everybody can understand it. At the top of the tree we have Adam, and he has to make a decision. There are two moves that he has. One is the left move. When he makes the left move, then the game passes to Bob, who will make the second move. On the other hand, he has the exit option. If he makes the right move, then the game finishes. Bob never gets a chance to play, and the game finishes, and Adam gets $7 and Bob gets nothing. So he can just exit. He says, I don't want to play, just give me $7, I'm quitting. If he chooses to make the left move, then Bob is now on the move, and he also has his left and right move. If he makes the left move, then Adam gets only $5, which is less than the $7, and Bob gets $3, let us say. I will change this number to show you different types of phenomena later. So that's why I'm writing 3 plus question mark. Let's just think of it as 3 for the moment. If Bob makes the right move, then he will get $5, and A will get $10. Now these games are solved by a process which is called backwards recursion. So means that you start at the bottom of the tree and you work up. So what I would like to ask you is, what move will Bob make? Will he make left move or will he make right move? He will make right, because he gets $5. This is what economic theory predicts, that he is maximizing his utility. So if Bob makes the right move, then what will A get? $10. So that means that now coming up the tree, this is what backward recursion works like. What should Adam play, left or right? He should play left, because if he plays left, then he will get $10. If he plays right, he will get $7. $10 is bigger than 7. So this is standard maximization theory. Economic theory gives us the solution to this game. Now, we are going to show the solution is all wrong. Okay. There are 4 predictions that game theory makes about this game. All 4 of these predictions are wrong. यहाँ पे बिजली खत्म हो गई इसकी. Oops. Game theory makes 4 predictions. All 4 of these predictions are wrong. And the reality of the game, which is the behavior, actual behavior, is very different from. हाँ ये सही यहीं पे. Alright, so the 4 predictions are the ones that we just did. That first of all, we can guarantee that B will pick right move because $5 is bigger than 3. Then A knows that B will pick that one. So A can rely on the rationality of B. Suppose that B is just an irrational person, then A cannot rely on him. So he will then calculation. So I trust that you will be profit maximizing. Maybe you are not a profit maximizing person. So one of the things that economists do is not only that I am profit maximizing, but I believe that everybody in the world is profit maximizing. Suppose B doesn't care about money, then I will be in trouble. My theory will not predict. So this means that then, so that one is my belief that you are a profit maximizer. The second is that I am also a maximizer, so I will play 10. Suppose I am not a maximizer, I could go 7. And also, finally, what the value of this B gets, which I showed was 0 here, if Adam plays the safe option, this doesn't matter because this is a move which is not going to be made, so it doesn't matter what it is. It could be $100, it could be, because we are never going to play that, so it's irrelevant. Now all 4 of these predictions are wrong. Now, actually when this game is played in reality, the closer that 3 plus x is to 5, the more it is possible that B will simply not care. So suppose, for example, instead of if we make the x such that you have B can get $4.75 on one side and $5 on the other, then the maximizer will always pick 5. Why will he pick 4.75? But actually, in reality, this doesn't happen. Sometimes B doesn't care. Okay, I'll take this one. He doesn't pay enough attention. We don't know actually. There are other reasons also, other motivations. But anyway, so this is what's true, and everybody understands this. So everybody who is playing the game as B, and he is not an economist, he understands that if you have 475, we might play the wrong move. And knowing that, in that situation, in real life games, and this is what behavioral economics is about. It studies real life games with real life people. This is the difference between behavioral economics and theoretical game theory. Theoretical game theory is always formulas and mathematics, no real people involved. Behavioral economics is always about real life behavior of people. So in real life behavior of people, A understands that he cannot rely on B to maximize. So because of that, the closer this 375 is to 5, the more A is likely to take the option, the safe option, take $7 and exit. But as the difference becomes larger, A becomes cooler. He says that if it's $3 and $5, yes, we can figure out that there is a difference. Now this is contrary to the prediction of economic theory. According to economics, it doesn't make any difference whether it's $3 or $3.75 or $3.99. Even if it is $4.99 and 5, B will maximize and will pick 5. But actually in real life we all know that if it's $4.99, we can't rely on B to pick $5. Nobody cares too much about 1 paisa. So this is in conflict with economic theory. So the second thing, that A also knows, contrary to the economic theory says that everybody assumes that everybody else will be optimizing, but actually in real life this is not true. People are smarter than that. People know that many times the other party will not optimize. Like these people, they were not very smart. Somebody said that they might reject and we might get nothing. Actually, when this game is played, and what economic theory says in the ultimatum game, economic theorists say that, well, it's a small amount of money, people are not serious. If you make really big amounts of money, then people will follow the economic theory. But actually it's completely wrong. If you put a really big amount of money, people have done that, $1,000, then people become even more fear because they are very afraid of being rejected. So they say, okay, 5,000 and 5,000. If it's $10,000, they don't say 6,000 or 4,000 because they're afraid that agar usne reject kar diya to hamara bahut nuksan ho jayega. So contrary to the prediction that high stakes serious game will make it economic theory more true, it's exactly the opposite. High stakes make it even less true. So people know that other people don't maximize, contrary to economic theory. Untrained people are better at predicting human behavior than economists. And in real life, when 3 plus x is close to 5, real life people pick the safe option because they know they can't rely on. So this proves that the first 3 predictions of game theory are wrong. Now the fourth prediction is even more interesting. It doesn't matter. Now let's look at this one. Suppose that the safe option has B getting $100. Now, what do you think will happen if Adam plays right? He's trying to get his $10. So what will happen? Bob will play left. Why? Bob will be very angry with Adam. Why will Bob be angry with Adam? Yes, he lost him $100. क्या हो गया तुमको यार? ये मुझे $100 मिल रहे थे, तुम्हें इतनी पड़ी थी अपने $10 बनाने की, मुझे चलो उसको मैं भी नुकसान पहुंचाता हूँ, उसको मैं तो मुझे भी नुकसान पहुंचेगा, मगर कोई बात नहीं. This is standard human behavior. Revenge, as somebody said. So, economic theory makes completely the wrong prediction here. Economic theory says that Adam will go right and Bob will go left and A will get 10. But actually Adam knows that agar maine kahin galti se ye left khel diya in real life, तो Bob will almost surely get his revenge. तो कभी भी ये नहीं खेलेगा वो. And this is real life behavior. People are smart enough to understand what's going on, and so Adam will always play right here. He will give up the $10 because he knows it's not there. Actually, Bob will not forgive him for losing him the $100. Here is another interesting situation, which is again completely contrary to game theory. So here Adam can make $20 if he makes the exit, but this will cause a great loss to B of $100. Minus $100 is the payoff. So Adam can exit, he can get $20, that's the biggest payoff he can get. But suppose he will play right. Then it's Bob's turn. Now Bob's maximizing move is still right. He has $5 and $3. What will he do? He will play left because he will be grateful to Adam for protecting him. He will understand that he could have made more, but he is being kind to B by not getting his maximum payoff, and so he should also be kind, and he should allow him to get $15. This is natural human behavior, but completely opposite of what game theory predicts. So this is the truth, and economic theory gives exactly this is what I was saying, that
it leads, the kufr leads from light to darkness. The theory tells us exactly the opposite things of how human beings are really behaving. So, this was a very, very simple game, and what we showed is that there are many emotions involved in the analysis of a very simple game. So, when you have a complex market economy, how much more complicated it will be. So just to think that everybody is always maximizing utility, and that is how we can figure out the behavior of firms and the behavior of consumers and the behavior of families, education, everything, is just completely wrong. It doesn't work like that. So this means that the field is open. We can discover what the right knowledge is about economics, because they don't have anything. They have zero. Actually not zero, they have negative. Their theory actually prevents them from understanding reality. So for a long time, economists have been discussing why there is cooperation. There are books and articles written because according to theory there should be competition. I should try to maximize my behavior and you should try to maximize yours, but we see cooperation. People sacrifice. People say, okay, you can have it and I will do without. This happens very often in real life. A lot of cooperation exists which cannot be explained. So for a long time, economists who notice, for example, a stranger will jump into a burning building to save somebody. He never knows why. He is not maximizing. He is taking great risk to help somebody. His utility function will not be maximized by this. So cooperation exists. Economists realize this. So they are trying to think, how can we explain cooperation on the basis of selfishness? Because selfishness is assumed. So they say, okay, they have lots of books and explanations that, okay, I cooperate because in the long run this will be helpful to me. So this is just nonsense. And actually when you look at the reality, people don't make these long run calculations. Okay, I go in this burning building. Next time when I am in a burning building, somebody else will come in and rescue me. This is not how people behave or think. So the theory is, economic theory says that cooperation shouldn't exist. It exists. Economists have spent a lot of time trying to explain cooperation as a result of selfish behavior, but it's just wrong. It's just garbage theory. It doesn't have any sense. So the economic theory says that selfish behavior maximizes our long run welfare. That's why everybody should do it. The truth is that if you look at real life behavior, then generosity and cooperation maximizes social welfare. It's very simple. Suppose that I can be, just one example, there are thousands of examples. Suppose that everybody, there is a risk of cancer, and cancer requires 5 lakhs rupees, suppose, to treat. So now, in a competitive society, everyone has to work hard to put 5 lakh rupees in the bank just in case he gets cancer. Now actually the rate of cancer is about 1 in 100,000 or something like that. So if everybody just puts 1 rupee in the bank instead of 1 lakh as a safety factor, and then whoever gets cancer, everybody gives their 1 rupee to him. So this is cooperative behavior. Then I only have to work 1 extra rupee, and the rest I can do for my own. But if we are competitive, then everybody has to work work and make 100,000 just for the possibility that maybe I get cancer and then nobody will help me. So I have to have my own money. So how much waste? And you just think. And everybody has to work very hard to protect against a possibility, because nobody will help him. But if everybody helps, then in cooperation everybody has to do just 1 rupee's worth of extra work, and the whole society is protected. So this is why cooperation and generosity are much better for society than competition. There is a lot of recent work which shows that the idea of scarcity, which is taken to be the fundamental building block, is actually very harmful. It's a question of thinking, a way of thinking. You have a glass, and it has half water. You can say, oh, there is scarcity in water, I am missing half. Oh, I have to go and hunt for the more water. Or you can say, MashaAllah, I have half a glass, this is more than enough, plenty for me. So, the facts are the same, but the mindset is different. So, if you have abundance thinking that, oh, there's plenty for everybody as long as we share and cooperate, then it becomes enough for everybody. As a practical example, I had my students do some social work in two small Kachi Abadis near Islamic University. One of them was Afghani refugees. They were all linked to each other. The other one were Punjabi migrants, and they were not very integrated. They were living in roughly the same social conditions, and they were having daily wages. Somebody would find a job, somebody would not. So in the Punjabi village, there was not very strong social capital. People did not have much strong contact. So on the days when somebody worked, he would eat. Other people his neighbor would be hungry. On the days the neighbor worked, the neighbor would eat and he would be hungry. In the Afghani village, whenever somebody found work, everybody ate. So everybody was fed. So the social capital allowed everybody to get by with much less. So when you have scarcity thinking, oh, I have too little, I cannot share it with others because I already have too little, then this causes harm and damage to the society. If you are, okay, I have more than what I need, let me give it to you. The others, Allah Ta'ala will take care of me when I need. So this is abundance thinking, that there is plenty. And this is what we are encouraged in Islam. And this leads to positive externalities socially. And there are lots of books now written on this, that it's a question of mindset. It's not a question of physical reality. Is there scarcity or not? It's a question of our mindset, not of the objective reality. So, now behavior, what controls behavior? There have been a lot of studies, and exactly the opposite of what economists say. It turns out that generosity is a universal social invariant. The economist finds that greediness is the universal behavior. Everyone in every society, in all times, he will always be greedy. This is what they argue. The truth is exactly the opposite. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاءُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتُ يُخْرِجُونَهُم مِّنَ النُّورِ إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. That inside they used to have this understanding. They've lost this understanding. So not only is generosity universal, but it's actually something which brings happiness to the human heart. Babies are born with generosity. This is research from psychologists. Babies, if somebody is crying, they feel their pain, they start crying. If somebody is happy, the babies become happy. If they see somebody in pain, the experiment was done, somebody dropped a pencil. The baby could crawl, he crawled and picked up the pencil and gave it to the person. And they are trying to help others. So this is built in. Generosity, cooperation, kindness, love for others, sympathy, these are all built into the human heart. Then it is a poisonous assumption to say that every human being is always selfish. And I have seen people in my classes like these, when I teach people, just don't believe. They say, no, human beings are selfish. Why? Because they have been brainwashed by economic theory. So, what we choose, our preferences are, how much we enjoy what we get. All of this depends on social norms, on how our parents are trained, or what our culture. Now, if our culture teaches hospitality, then we will be very happy when we take all the food in our house and give it to a stranger who is a guest, and we remain hungry. This can happen because people feel happy because the norm of hospitality is very strong. So there is no invariant, no universal principles of behavior. I remember I started by saying that economists said that we have to find universal laws, and they chose this, that every human being is greedy. This is their universal law. And this is just false. It's not like that. Things vary from culture to culture. Every society is different. Details matter. What are the institutions in the society, how they are working, the educational institute, how are they training the students, how the families are bringing up the children. All of these things determine how people behave. There is no universal law, no utility maximization. So, there is this famous game which is called the Prisoner's Dilemma, which is the most widely studied game of all time. There are thousands of studies. Because there is a stark contrast between what theory says and what reality is. So, there are many stories which are told. The standard story is that there are two prisoners. This is why it's called the Prisoner's Dilemma. And they cooperated in some crime, but there is no evidence against them. So, the prosecutor cleverly takes them into separate rooms and says that, look, if you betray your fellow prisoner, then I will reduce your punishment and I will give him the tough punishment. The other person is also told the same thing. So now they have two strategies. They can cooperate with each other. They say, no, I won't say anything against my partner. If they both cooperate, then there is not much evidence. Both will be let off with very mild punishment. So that if they both cooperate, they both get a high payoff. Now, if one person cooperates that I won't betray the other person, and the other person betrays him that yes, he was responsible for the crime, then one of them gets a temptation payoff. That I will give you a reward, I will let you off, and you will be court's witness, and you will get some. So he gets one of them gets the prize, and the other person gets the what is called the sucker payoff. He was suckered. He was deceived by his. He thought that he could trust him, but he could not. So the sucker payoff is very low, and the temptation payoff is very high. Similarly, when the other side cooperates and this one betrays, then the one who betrays gets the benefit, and the one who cooperates loses. And if both of them betray, then both of them get high sentences, and there is no. So now this is a dilemma because there is a conflict between what is socially optimal and what is individually optimal, and this is the most common thing. Either I will make sacrifices for society, and if everybody makes sacrifices for society, then everybody will be better off, or I will just pursue my self-interest. In that case, it will make everybody worse off. So, this game has been studied a huge amount, and according to economic theory, it should be betray. Betray is the strong dominant strategy. Everyone who is rational will always play betray. Why? Because it works better regardless of what the other person does. If the other person betrays, then obviously there is no point in cooperating, right? And if the other person is cooperating, then you are even made better off because he is a sucker and now you can get for the temptation payoff. So if both sides think in this way, then they will both betray, because that's the dominant strategy, and so both sides will end up with the punishment, the high punishment. If both sides decide to trust each other and say, okay, I won't betray, and I won't go for the temptation that he will, even if you know, if you know that he is cooperating, what should you do? According to game theory, you should betray him, because you will go get the higher payoff by betrayal. But according to human theory, that's what I'm saying, market is in conflict with human. If he is cooperating, then if you are a human being, you will feel bad that, look, he is being so nice, and why should I betray him? So you have to, actually the human being will act to cooperate if he knows that the other side is cooperating. The economist will act to betray if the other side is cooperating. And in both cases. So now what happens when reality? So the theory, according to economic theory, in this game it should always be betray and betray. But what happens in reality? Cooperation is very, very common. So a meta-analysis, a study of studies, looked at all of the studies, and basically there are again 3 predictions of economic theory. All 3 of them are wrong according to behavior. One of the predictions of economic theory is that cheap talk has no effect. Cheap talk is a technical term. It means that, suppose that we are going to play this game. I am going to play the prisoner's dilemma game with somebody else. And we talk to each other, who are you, what do you do, and we don't discuss anything about the game. Then, according to economic theory, it's completely irrelevant. And we can make an agreement that, look, if you betray me, you better watch out, I need to come after you. So, that's a different thing, that's not cheap talk. But cheap talk is just, who are you, how are you, airy-fairy, without any relevance. So, that should have no effect on the outcome. But in reality, what happens? If people talk to each other, they immediately learn to trust each other, and the cooperation rates go up very high. If they don't know, if it's strangers, then you sometimes get betray. It depends on things. So again, this is a wrong prediction of economic theory. Now, according to again economic theory, the temptation payoff, how much reward are you giving to the person for betraying? According to economic theory, it doesn't matter. As long as it's larger than what you are getting, then people are maximized, they will always pick the larger number. But this is not true in reality. The more you increase the temptation, the more betrayals you get. This is again in conflict with the predictions of game theory. And also, if the sucker payoff is very bad, then people are less inclined to cooperate. So they have, and this is a proportional effect, and again this is against the prediction of game theory. And also, if you have on a one-shot prisoner's dilemma, you get about 50-50 cooperation and betrayal, because especially with anonymous strangers. If people know each other, things are different. But if you have an anonymous stranger, people don't have a clear idea of whether or not they can trust the other person. So you often get betrayal, but you also get a lot of cooperation. According to economic theory, you should get 0, you get about 50%, which is much higher than economic theory predicts. But in repeated games, if this is happening 5 games, 10 games, then cooperation is very strong, because now you have the time to build up trust, and people do build up trust. And so they, if somebody betrays, there's the famous tit for tat strategy. If you betray, then you punish him. And so by betraying in the next game, so he learns that you better cooperate. If both of you cooperate, you get high outcomes, and if both of you betray, you get low outcomes. So people learn to cooperate. Now, according to economic theory, it's a very strange thing, but you can calculate it and you can show that the optimal strategy, maximizing strategy for everybody, is to betray on all rounds, no cooperation. So, economic theory leads to a prediction which is dramatically in conflict with reality again. Alright, so this was an introduction to how behavioral theory actually contradicts the results of economic theory, how behavioral theory is right, behavioral economists are busy trying to make models to explain behavior, but they are very limited in their models. The models that they're making often are like the economist model. Prospect theory is one very famous model of behavioral economics. But basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to make the model like the economist model, but the reality is very different. And what is needed is a revolution, and behavioral economics is an evolution. But still it is a good first step, and it opens your mind and allows you to think further, and there are many things which can be done in this area which are completely new because economists don't know anything about it. So that's why it allows for new research and new thesis. For example, we did an experiment. Saima, who was my PhD student, we just did some simple experiment on motivating workers. Very strange. We had some task. It was a routine task. They were supposed to grade exams by checking the multiple choice answers against the key. So this was a task. This is a job that we are giving, and in one case we paid them wages, and the other case we gave them a gift of the same value in addition to the base wage. So in one case we gave them a bonus, in one case we gave them a gift. According to the theory, the gift and the bonus should be the same, or actually the gift should have less value because it's not flexible. With the bonus they can buy the gift, and they can also buy whatever they want, so they can maximize. So according to the theory, the gift should work less well than the bonus, but actually the result showed the opposite. The gift worked better because people took the gift as a social clue, and they said, okay, now we are working not in the market framework, we are working because to help this person who is being so kind to us and giving us a gift. So they worked harder and they graded more questions correctly. Now this is a very delicate situation. At the time we were doing it, we didn't understand this properly, the framing effect. So actually now I understand much better how to get this effect. I mean, basically the issue is you have to invoke the social mechanism inside the person. So if you treat him very well, kindly, when he comes in, have some chai, have some biscuits, and please, you are here, I'm so happy to see you, and you're going to do this work, and it's going to be very helpful to me, he will work very hard. And if you say, okay, this is a market transaction, I don't know who you are, here's your money, here's your job, do it. So this will not have then he will be in market mode. That doesn't mean he won't do the work. People work for money. But if you want extra effort, if you want some motivation, then you have to invoke the social norm. So in different situations, different things work better. I mean, sometimes money works better than social. But the thing is that there are two different spheres, and if you use economic theory, you will predict that, okay, people will give more blood if you give them money for the pound. And Nobel Prize winners did make this mistake. They said that if you give money, you will get more blood, and it didn't happen. So those people who have the understanding of how human beings really behave can make a lot of significant progress. The behavioral economists don't have, they're just making very small changes. They're trying to make very small, and actually human beings are very, very different from what economic theory says. So we can make very large changes and very interesting predictions and experiments and outcomes. So I'll end here. Subhanallah bihamdihi subhanallah azim. Tabarakallah.